to Ambassador in the Marketplace, where we correct your misconception and give you tips to thrive in the marketplace. As advertised, I've got with me my guest today, Tolu. And as I've told you, you know me by now. I don't know how to introduce people because I don't want to leave the nice details out. So I'll get them to introduce themselves and let them know how much and how little about them, but I'm sure they want to share a whole lot with you. So, welcome on this show, Tolu. It's beautiful to have you. Please introduce yourself to our audience today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I am so delighted to be here. Thank you, Temitope, for inviting me to your amazing program. I am honored and delighted. My name is Tolu Ekwe. A lot of people from outside of Nigeria or outside of the Yoruba space, which is my tribe, call me Tolu because it's easier. Whatever you call me, I am first of all, a Christian, and I am proud to be a Christian, a child of God. I am married, been married for 21 years. I have 3 amazing daughters, and I am by profession, I am a pharmacist by training, as well as a marriage and family life coach, and a public speaker. And lastly, I'm an author. Yeah, so those are some of the things I do. Yeah, that's who I am. I am passionate about helping people to thrive, to succeed. I believe that God has a purpose for everybody's life. And what we need to do is find it. And when we do, we will become a light. The Bible says we're a light to the world. Well, how do you be a light if you're trying to be something else? Or you're working hard to be something else? But when you understand who you are and whose you are, and you thrive in that space, you'll be a light. It just happens. Yeah. I was going to say praise the Lord.
Okay. Wow, thank you so much for that introduction. See, I told you I wouldn't have done a good job like that. So thank you again. So why this career pathway? Because you've discussed a bit, I think 3 different career pathway. And how did you move into those spaces? You know, like from pharmacy to coaching to public speaking. Tell us about your journey.
You know, I love that question because it is indeed a journey. Life is a journey. You know, one of the things that we tend to do when we see someone in a particular space, we think they chose it. We think, you know, they looked at the options and said, you know, this is where I want to go. And you're thinking, hey, I like where this person is. Let me just choose it and go there as well. Life doesn't happen like that. You know, Gen Z say life be lifing. So what happened for me was, first of all, let's go back to secondary school. In secondary school, in primary school, I was this brainiac. You know, I was usually one of the first 3. If I had a result, I remember one time when my result was not, I wasn't one of the first 3. I knew something was wrong. I went and sat down with all my sheets. Something was wrong. And I found it. I had a 96 on one paper and they recorded it as 69. And by the time they added those marks, I would have come second. But it was too late. The event had been done, you know, the gifts had been taken. I remember that. So this was me. This was how I thought life was. Then I got to secondary school and I was okay. I was average. I did well, but average. But by the time I applied myself at JS3, that's the level where you prepare to get into like more specialized subjects, right? You're either going to science or art. I applied myself, and of course I did well. And if you did well, you were automatically a science student. So this is how I entered into the sciences. I say this because some of the people who would probably watch this are Nigerians or from places where you don't really get to choose which path you want. It gets chosen for you. And you may think that puts you in bad stead, and it might for a short time. But if you walk with God, He has a way of bringing all of the pieces together. Okay, so I now go into sciences, I go into pharmacy, I study pharmacy, and I thrived. I did well. But I always had this nagging sense that there was more. So I thought, okay, I went into hospital practice and I thought, okay, maybe if I go into community. I did some community work and I loved it. And I thought, oh, okay, I love connecting with people. I particularly loved when people would come and open up to me. They start out talking about their health problems. Sometimes they will end up going into other areas, their stresses about their relationships, their worries about their families, their children, whatever. But I loved engaging with people. So that was the first insight. So you need to think about what you do, whatever it is that you do. What is it that you like about what you do? Many times we don't pause to introspect, to analyze, to really understand what are we doing and what is it that connects with us. Don't be a robot. There's more to you than that. I realized that. Now, I didn't understand how it will guide my choices down the line, but I noticed that part, that was the fun part of the work. Okay. And then fast forward to getting married. I got married, thankfully, to my best friend, and we can talk about that some other time, but it was 2012 would be, 9 years or so into our marriage that we attended a marriage counseling program in church. And this was not program, a marriage enhancement class, that's what it's called. Okay, so we go to a church called Family Worship Center. And we didn't go there because we had problems. If you're married, there's always a place called forward. There's a place that's better than where you are. Don't just settle. Okay, and that's in life generally. Don't settle. Just always aspire to be better. So we went there to just see, well, let's see what else we could learn. It turned out to be so fulfilling and ended up preparing us for some things that will come up down the line. It was really amazing. Little did we know that in completing it, we will now get recruited to be part of the program. And so that's how our journey as marriage counselors started. So you see, this was life, just the journey. I didn't say, you know what, I think I should become a marriage counselor. That's not how it started. But we did that, and we've been doing that for over a decade now. Okay. And then 2 years ago, I realized that more and more people were reaching out to me and asking for advice on marriage. And I knew that what I knew was great, and what I had been learning in church and what the trainings we'd had in church was fantastic. But I wanted to be able to do more, to be able to help people who are not in that space, to be able to connect with them as well. And so I got certified as a family life coach, and I do marriage coaching from that space as well. Then the public speaking part. I'll give you the short version. I thought pharmacists are typically, I think for the most part, we're more introverted. I think so. I don't have statistics to back that up, but I think that many pharmacists are introverted or become that because of the nature of the work, because you do a lot of internal processing, screening of prescriptions, etc. So we tend to think, we do a lot of our thinking, and we may not really express it outwardly. So I always thought about myself that I was more of a one-on-one person, that I do better talking to individuals. I don't do good talking to crowds. I'm thinking that in my head, but life is putting me in front of crowds. From youth fellowship, I was youth fellowship president, first of all, youth fellowship secretary, then later president for like 2 cycles, I was in the choir, so I was singing, but I always felt like it was something I stepped out and did and quickly came back into my space. Go out, do it, and come back into your space, So it didn't cross my mind that it was in any way one of the things I should be engaging. So the short version, grief. I lost my mom. And I lost her 2 days after having my second baby. Now, if you've had a baby before, you know how much of an emotional roller coaster that is. To add a loss of your parent, who was also your best friend, is like, you don't even want to know. So I had to just do some magic. I locked down in my heart, just put the grief aside because you have to cope. So I just put the grief aside and just kept going. Years later, it would become an issue and I needed support. So in engaging with a therapist, part of the things that unraveled in that engagement was, hey, explore public speaking. Like me, how? Based on what? So anyhow, through her, I was connected with this organization that trains on public speaking and leadership, and I was thriving. Started winning contests. Boom, 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 boom. I started getting pushed into positions and doing things. And it was so it was this natural thing that was there, but I didn't know it was there. And the Bible says that you should fan the gift into flame. This was more than fan, it was AC, it was everything. so this is how that also started. And I guess the rest you can say is history.
Wow, wow. And the amazing thing whenever I hear stories like this is how God uses our life experience to push us into the spaces He wants us to be. Because I always look at it that if those things, if they didn't happen, we will still be where we are because it's our comfort zone, is the beautiful place. But then you something pushes you to transition into that space, and then you guys, that's just like, wow, I didn't know that this can ever happen to me. And like people look at it and they're like, oh, I really like she has a plan. You're like, no, I don't have a plan. I was pushed into that space.
Absolutely.
And we thank God that how He kind of journey with us, and then there are times in which you don't want to go and He'll just push you, and yeah, you don't want to go. Okay, fine, I'll kick you, and then you have to go.
Which reminds me, sorry, the part I didn't mention is the books. Why would I start writing? And if I'm writing, shouldn't I be writing about one of these three things I've said? So one of the things was I'm a mother, right? I'm a firstborn child. Being firstborn and losing my mom, I lost my mom 2.5 years after my first baby was born, but she had been sick. She had dementia. And so she wasn't there. So I didn't have that support, that mentorship. That's what I thought I would have in my parenting journey. So one of the things I realized was I need to teach this. How do you teach this 2-year-old child that she should be thankful, or that she should, how do you teach concepts or ideas to your child? What's the best way? And I found that storytelling worked fantastically. I would tell her a story and she would listen with rapt attention. And then later on, I would try and address something around that. And she would say, like this person, and she would remind me of the character I'd forgotten because I was making it up as I was going. And I thought, okay, if it's working for her, I wonder if it will work for other people. So I started putting some of those stories down. And now I have some stories, different books, I have a ton of children's books, if you see, children's books. That's where it started, writing children's books. Then the marriage thing brought up other issues. My husband and I now co-authored a book. So it's just, so this is, just to say life ordering things. Yeah.
I think that's the thing that, like it comes back to what we are saying, that, you stumble on things sometimes, but that's the way of God showing you actually that's an area that you you have that gift and you need
Mm,
to start
mm.
to use that gift. And sometimes we think, oh, I'm just doing it for my child, or just doing it, like, no,
Right.
to do it bigger. I want other people to benefit from that gift that you have within you. Amazing, amazing. So, so what's a common myth about your space? So, talking about the space as a coach, talking about the space as a public speaker, and even pharmacy. What is a common myth? Just one of each in those space. What's a common myth about those spaces?
Come on. Okay. Okay, so let me start with public speaking. A common myth about public speaking is that introverts cannot be public speakers. Aha. We tend to think that it is that for you to be out there, you have to be an extrovert, you have to be loud, you have to be noisy. Do you know that there are events, for example, where you attend and you'll be put off by a very noisy MC, a very loud, mouthy MC, like, ugh. Some people will be repulsed, and some people will be very happy and comfortable with another MC who is calm and quieter and gentle and, paces their words like, aha, this is better. So it doesn't follow. Some other people will go to sleep with that quieter MC. So it's just to say that everybody has a space. The sky is so wide and there are stars and all the stars get to shine. Okay. So that's one myth for public speaking. For marriage coaching, I think one myth would be that the marriage coach fixes marriages. Yeah. I find that many people who seek a marriage coach, maybe unconsciously, are looking for someone to blame so that if things go wrong, they will say your process did not work. They will have someone to hang it on. It's kind of like someone who has a cancer, has something growing, in their body, they can see it, they are in denial, they don't want to go anywhere, and then they finally go to the hospital. And it's too late, but they can at least blame it on the doctor and say, the doctor did not heal me of my disease. Why is that your goal? Why should your goal be looking for someone to blame? Why shouldn't your goal be looking for how to make things better for yourself? You're the one living in the marriage, right? So I think that would be one myth, that the coach cannot fix your marriage. What they do is work with you to take you from where you are to where you want to be. But it has to be you wanting to be there. They can't want it for you. Common myth. For pharmacy, from the perspective of the patient, I would say one common myth is that there is a pill for every ill. It's not true. Yesterday, for example, I was talking with a patient and I quickly realized that there was more to her symptoms than met the eye. She was dealing with psychosomatic symptoms, which means she was dealing with physical symptoms that were as a result of emotional problems. Yeah. She had gone through a breakup, stuff had happened, and all that. And that's what led to where she was. So to just quickly, what's the tablet to take for this? What's the medicine to take for that? No, not all situations require a drug. And then some may require it later, some may not even require it at all. So yeah, that's one. So that's from the patient's angle. From the observers looking at the pharmacist's angle, pharmacists make a lot of money. That's a myth. That's a myth. And it's a myth because it's not always untrue. Pharmacy is potential, just like anything else. Just like anything else. You will find that there are doctors that are not doing very well. There are pharmacists that are not doing very well. There may be people who, I don't know, but I think that there may be pilots too, who may not be getting opportunities to pilot as much as they would like. So just because someone is a pharmacist doesn't mean you should send them all your family bills to help sort you out. Yeah. So that would be it. I don't know.
Oh my God. That last one is so funny. I I am in I am in the UK and I can tell you that Some people think we get loads of money. As a matter of fact, I remember talking to someone this week gone. Yeah, it's this week. It was like, what do you do? I said, I do pharmacy. Yeah, you get loads of money. I felt like saying, excuse me, what does that mean exactly? What or that does that mean exactly? Because I'm sitting on this side, I don't see the money.
Right.
I don't know where you got that impression from. I'm not seeing the money. And yeah, it's a very interesting concept that people have in their mind that you get this tons of money like
Mhm.
stuck up somewhere.
Right.
And I'm like, no, it doesn't work like that. Especially if you work for the NHS. Sorry, NHS, but if you work for the NHS in the UK, I don't know about the money, but maybe some people do. But I work for the NHS and I'm not seeing the dollar sign that much. I'm still praying to see this all dollar sign. But yes. Oh, thank you so much. That was that pharmacy.
For a community pharmacy too, right? Like even in the hospital. So what happens is the more you have people, and this is across board, not just pharmacy, the more there are people available to do what you can do, the less you'll get paid. That's just something you need to understand. So we need to think, what am I doing? Or what can I do that would that fewer people can do? And there's something for every one of us. And maybe that's why I don't think we should think I'm a pharmacist and that's all I am. Because maybe the thing that you can do that others may not be able to do is outside of pharmacy or outside of whatever that career is. So find that your thing and hone it and brush it up and work on it. And who knows? Or of course, with God guiding you, because sometimes you can enter bush. If you know what I mean, if you go by yourself trying to figure it out.
And then you might get the dollars, right?
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That moves me on nicely to ask. So, what is the biggest ongoing challenge you faced or you are facing currently? And you can pick any of the roles that we've talked about, be it public speaking or being a coach or still being a pharmacist. What is an ongoing challenge? And it might be something that is common to the three of them or something that is just unique.
Okay, so interesting that you should ask. Okay, so one is at first, doing many things is possible, but the more things grow, the more you're going to have to decide, you know what, where do I need to focus my energies? So I'm in this space right now where things are growing and there are ways in which I'm learning that I can either make all the things work or reduce some of the load. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, we only have 24 hours. I'm also having to decide what, and I think this is something we need to do. It's an ongoing thing. You define it at the beginning of your journey and you keep defining it. What success means for you. We were talking just before we started this, success. What does it mean for you at this time? So that what you're doing is taking you in the direction you want to go. Because one of the things, and I plan to do something with this, right? To talk to people, maybe pharmacists, maybe even more. When you choose a career, many of us come in as employees. When you're an employee, what it means is you're exchanging time for money. You're saying, okay, give me money, I'll give you my time. It's a good place to start. It's definitely better than being unemployed. Okay, you have something to exchange. But we must be conscious that the more valuable thing of the two that are being exchanged is actually your time, not the money. Even though you need money, money is not more valuable than your time. So you now need to find ways to improve the value of what you do so that your time can be priced for more money. But even when that happens, which is what tends to happen. So I now moved from being an employee to where I now am an employer, and I have my own business. But I find that if you're self-employed, you can still use your time. You're still exchanging time for money. It's just you're the one doing the exchange. You're using your own time with one hand and giving yourself money. So you're feeling like you're freer. But it's kind of like if a rope is being tied around somebody, is it less of a rope when you are the one doing the tying? Does that make sense? So you can find yourself in a space, and I find that many pharmacists are in that space, where they own their own business. Or maybe you're a doctor and you own your own hospital. Or you have a service that you do that is tied to you, it's tied to the professional. What happens is you have tied yourself with a rope. So you now need to think, what are the ways in which I can remove myself from this rope and still keep this thing going? Or have an exit strategy to free yourself from that rope. Because otherwise, I hear a lot of pharmacists say, we'll still end up retiring into community pharmacy anyway. And I'm thinking, how do you mean? You want to end up an old 65, 70-year-old person who still has to go to work at your own shop. It's your own office. It's your own organization. So now that means I'm free. No, that means you have tied yourself by yourself. It's fine if that's what you want, but make sure that's what you want is the point I'm making. So you're not stuck. I don't have any choice. I have to go to this place. So that's where I am now. And what I envision is a situation where I can help other people to see how you can go in to a business. I've run this successfully for 15 years. And how you can also get out. And get out winning. Not we're used to losing jobs and businesses folding up. No, get out winning. You can leave winning. Who says you can't walk off the stage when the applause is loudest? So yeah, that's the challenge and the vision.
I think it's a good challenge, and I think that challenge kind of evolves, isn't it? Because and I like what you said about that analogy in the sense that you're tying yourself with a rope, but yeah, it's still yours. But then the question is, what's the end of that? You can still have the business and you can run the business. You don't have to be the person in the
Right.
center of that business. That business does not need to rely on you. And I think that if I understand you correctly, that's about scaling. You have to scale your business enough that business, if you even I'm looking when you were talking about it, I'm actually looking about if you break down, then what happened to that business?
Right.
If you fall sick, then what happened to that business? Because if you fall sick and the business cannot run, then really and truly the question is, are you actually thriving? Because you're not. Because if you break down and then you can't open the shop for 6 months, how are you gonna feed yourself? How are you gonna feed your family? So,
Absolutely.
and I think it's about how you have the business, you're in it, and you're free, you can come and start and do whatever you want. But how do you transition into scaling that business actually doesn't depend on you? And I think that's always a challenge for anyone that walks into the business space, that okay, I've thrived in this space. How do I transition into the other space of scaling so that I like what you said about walk off the stage when the applause is high. And that's
Right.
a good time to walk off the stage, because if you
Right.
start walking off the stage when people are thinking, move please, there's somebody else that needs to come on the stage. That's like becoming a bit dry. You need to know a good time to actually exit.
Absolutely.
And give leave the space when and start to thrive the space by scaling. Thank you so much. That's amazing. So tell us about your journey of faith.
Mm. Now we're at the sweet spot. Hmm. So I remember, first of all, if you have a godly mother, consider yourself blessed if you have godly parents. But I say mother in particular because maybe because of my own experience. I don't know, people have different experiences. My mother engaged with me. My mother asked me questions, heard me out. She listened to my heart. She wasn't that give orders and instructions mother. No. She knew me. I felt connected to my mother. But one of the things I knew about her was that she loved to pray. I would wake up in the middle of the night. I remember my earlier childhood memories. My mother would be in my room, in our room. She's praying. She's praying for us. I'm asleep, you're praying. Don't you want to sleep? What is this? I couldn't really understand. Like, what is bothering you? We're fine. Sleep. But she prayed. She prayed. She prayed. She prayed. I knew she loved the Lord. I knew she served God. She was a university lecturer, but even on campus, they would invite her to speak. She would talk to people about God, about loving God, serving God in your youth. So I knew she loved God. But you see, when I was young, I'm talking like age 6, age 7, how it came across to me was just burdensome. Like, this is stress. Why are you stressing yourself? Just, is it that God doesn't, I mean, just, what is it? She would pray in tongues, she would pray for us. And then I got to secondary school. And I remember the first time I got scared of hell. We watched a movie, Burning Hell, was showed to us, and it was the fear of hell that made me come out for an altar call. I came out because I knew that my mom thought this whole time that I was born again, but I was really, in my heart, I kind of made fun of her. Just, what is your problem? And all that. I did what she wanted me to do. I was an obedient child, but inside, what's going on? But I came out because I didn't want to go to hell. And I did the altar call. But nothing really changed until I remember that my encounter with God, the one that I know that took, and some of you may understand that some of your encounters have not taken, it hasn't, you haven't connected, you just said some words with your mouth. God honors those words, so don't worry, it will come with time. But I got to this point where I was at home alone, it was on holiday, and it just hit me. I really cannot say what it was, but it just hit me that God loved me. That, wow, God has been good to me. It was like I just saw that He had blessed me with these wonderful parents, that He had been taking care of me all these years, that He had cared for me. There was just this knowing, this understanding that, wow, Lord, you love me. Thank you for loving me. I'm sorry that I haven't loved you back all this time. I'm sorry, please forgive me, And I repented that day and said, Lord, I want to serve you. I want to love you. Teach me. And it was just a simple, quiet prayer just between me and Him. But that day was the beginning of my journey as far as I know. He knows the full story, so if you ask him, but that's my understanding of the journey. So that's where it started. Now, after that, one encounter I want to mention, secondary school is very interesting. I was in boarding school and I was far away from home, and I felt like I was dealing with all these things, I was young. I went from primary 5. By the way, please, I don't know. I've read books that advise this too, so I think I can say categorically that it's, except in, I don't know, extraordinary cases, don't send children to boarding school too quickly. I was in boarding school anyway, so let me not go into too much. But I was in boarding school, and somebody came to minister at the fellowship. And one thing he said when he was praying for me, we came out to, they were praying for us for different reasons. But he came to pray for me. He said, God has plans for your life. He said, but don't copy people. Just be you. That thing has stayed in my head. Don't copy people. for God to give you that kind of word, usually it means that he knows that you have a tendency to copy people. So, so it stays with me and guides me down the line. So God has been faithful, honestly. Everything from my walk with him, learning to follow him, learning to hear his voice about marriage, about choice of career, what to do navigating that space, about parenting, about just living, everything, where to live, when to go, how to go, when to resign. I left a job I was working in civil service, and I decided, I had chosen in my heart, and I can't really explain it, but before even marriage, I knew that if it ever came to a choice between marriage or my family and my career, I would choose my family. So it was something I settled. So I now found myself in a space where we were living apart for like a year, and it was going to just be like that unless I did something different. And I knew it was time. And I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm jumping. Catch me. I had this picture of a girl, a little girl, how you put a parent can put the child on the bonnet of the car or something and say, jump, I'll catch you. I had that sense that I'll jump, God will catch me. And he has caught me every time. Every time. So when he says go, he'll catch you. Yeah. So that's my experience with him so far. So I'm excited about what's ahead.
Wow. And it's amazing now, we God journey with us and this little thing. And for our audience, like like my guest just said to you, it's good to pray that prayer in your heart, but you have to mean it in your heart, because that's what makes the difference, because you have to have that connection. You have to have that connection. It's not just saying the sinner's prayer or just confessing. Do you have that connection? And that is quite important. So, can you be a person of faith and succeed in the marketplace? What do you think? Without compromising? Ah,
Beautiful question. Beautiful question. I realize that this is something that maybe a lot of Christians, particularly I don't know what it's like in other climes, right? But like in Nigeria, it's probably a struggle for a lot of Christians. The reason being that the more corrupt the environment, the more you can think that that's what defines you. I'll give you a few examples. Running a community pharmacy in a climate like this. Now, I'm a bit careful to say these things, but it's the truth. And let's say that the regulation of use or of access to medications could be better. Okay, so you have a situation where people discover, and I wonder how they discover these things. People discover, for example, that a particular type of cough syrup gives them a particular high, that there's an effect that it has on them if they take, of course, they'll be taking a dose that is way beyond the required or the prescribed dosage. They discover this, and unfortunately, this drug can be purchased over the counter. Okay, what happens? Some years back, it was mad. There were these syrups that had a particular component. I won't mention it here, but they had this component that's supposed to help with suppressing cough, okay, in the cough center in the brain. So because it's active in the brain, it also has other effects on the brain depending on the dose that is taken. You're working in a pharmacy, you're doing the right things. Somebody walks in, can I have this syrup? 5 bottles. What do you need 5 bottles for? So now the law, the legalese of your practice, the ethics, does not stop you from dispensing 5 bottles. There's nothing wrong with it. It's an over-the-counter drug. They can buy 20. But you are concerned about your patients, and you're also a Christian. It's possible that they're buying them to go and resell. It's possible they're buying them to go and stock their own outlet or something, but it's also possible that something else is going on. Now you start asking questions. You now find out that they're abusing these drugs. Then it gets as bad as somebody will walk in, buy the syrup. You're telling them two teaspoons 3 times daily. They say, okay, okay, sure. They collect it, they pay. And there in front of you, they open it up and go the whole bottle in your presence. Mm. Now you can't unknow these things. You can't say, I don't know, I don't care. My own is to just sell. Because what is the knowing right and wrong, knowing that you're a child of God, and then these things? There's so much else. What about people who use medications to expel pregnancies or to do different things? You have to come to the point where you decide for yourself, where am I in all of this? To pretend and bury your head in the sand and say, you know what, I'll just look the other way is dishonest. So you have to be able to say, what am I willing to do? And we've had to, at our own place, knock out certain types of medications and say, you know what, yes, there may be a profit to it, but if 9 out of 10 people that come for this thing are coming for it for this wrong reason, I don't have it. And at risk of losing the profits that you would lose, you would lose, I don't have it. And guess what? We did not go under. Because the truth is, some people are looking for someone they can trust, someone who will do things right. And those people will find you. So that's what I'll say about that.
Amazing, amazing. And I think it is what you describe is so simple. Is interesting that some people don't see it that way, because they just see, oh, it's I'm selling a product and somebody came to my shop and wanted the product. So what's wrong with me selling it? But it's that care, it's that going that extra mile, is that actually I can compromise and turn the blind eye, or I can do the right thing. And what you just described is the same thing that you would do when somebody say, oh, I'll give you extra £5 bribe on the side if you do me. It's the same thing that you say, okay, I'm not going to, or oh, you know what, it's £5, but can you just say it's £10? And then, you get the £5, I get the £5.
Mm-hmm.
I will call it exactly what it is.
Yes.
And especially when you can actually see, like when you're describing, you told somebody 10 minutes 3 times a day, and right there in front of you, they got the whole thing down, and you're like, okay. And I've been in spaces in which I actually said to somebody, I don't have the products. In the time I used to work in community pharmacy, I don't have the products. It was like, but I came here yesterday. Yeah, that was yesterday. Today, I don't have the products. Go somewhere else. And sometimes we have to do that, because that is quite important, so as to ensure that we're walking in the line of faith, and we are doing our best to keep our patients safe as well, which is quite important. So I've come to this interesting bit. I've been looking forward to it. Tell us about your book.
Hey.
Tell us about your book. What inspired you to write this book? Because I've been like, I like, why did she write this book? Of all the topic that you could write about, why this one? So yes, please tell us about your book.
Okay, so I take it you're not talking about this book, Lessons We Learned from COVID-19. You must be talking about this book, Raging Waters. Okay, so Lessons We Learned from COVID-19 was a collaborative effort. Imagine being on LinkedIn and that happened, just a group of people. But this one, Raging Waters. So this is written by my husband and I. So Raging Waters is a novel. How did it start? So first of all, I told you we've been married for 21 years. We've been counseling couples for over 10. In that space, we've met with different types of people. We've also experienced different kinds of situations. Now, we got married without any guile. There are couples that marry, the man has ulterior motives. He's a player. He just wants someone. That was not us at all. We were best friends. We both loved God. We had plans to just be, exclusive. It didn't even cross our minds that anything untoward could happen. And for the first 9 years, we were in our beautiful bliss. Then, 9 years into marriage, something almost happened. And I say this because thankfully I have my husband's permission, to say that someone came onto the scene in a way that was unexpected. This is not something that you think can happen, so you don't even. It was God that helped us to navigate that space where we just found ourselves dealing with the possibility of infidelity. The possibility became so close. In fact, it was so scary that I saw this person and I just knew that something was wrong. Something was wrong. What's going on? Thankfully, God helped us to bypass, you almost and then just escape. But in that almost and escaping, a lot of things happened. You see, when there's the suspicion of an emotional affair in a marriage, it disrupts the relationship significantly because now trust is eroded. Once there is the possibility of comma, what Nigerians call comma, then we don't know what is after the comma. How far have things gone? Or how far can things go? And then where is your heart? Where is the heart? You start doubting the heart of the person.
You start to think, okay, what is it that I don't know?
What is it that I don't know? What are you not telling me? All of a sudden, suspicion, paranoia, you start wanting to check phone, you start wanting to check everything, So we went through that experience and had to heal from all of that, to learn, to seek help and learn how to recover from all of that. But we also have helped other people to deal with those kinds of things, to say, wait, this thing can happen. But you see, the book is not only about infidelity. Infidelity is only part of the story. The book is also about parenting. It's about mentoring. It's about the fact that many parents think that their job is to raise the children, make sure there's pampers, make sure there's food to eat, make sure they pay their school fees. Once they are adults, your work is done. No. Navigating the adult space requires the help of the parents a lot. It's just a different type of parenting at this stage. And what many parents do is they just show their good side. So we just think that, you came first in school, you got the best results, you got the award for the footballer of the year, you got all the good things. We don't know that one day you stole your mother's money and they almost broke your head. We don't know. We don't know that. We don't know those other sides. But you see, we need children need to know these things from their parents. They need to know how you overcame the temptations, how you fell and picked yourself up. Because one day, if they think all you were was perfect, then their model is perfect. Then their life is not perfect. They think there's something wrong with them. And then they hide that side from you. They don't want to be vulnerable with you because if you are perfect, then you won't understand this thing they're going through. So they suffer and suffer in silence, and you have the solution because you've gone through that thing and you've been able to get past it. And you are this success that they're seeing today. But they don't know that part. They need to know your struggles. So the parenting part is so important in this book. And you get to see how a parent can help support their child. That when you go through something, or when you almost go through something, you're able to recognize it before your child falls into that pitfall and say, hey, this thing you're about to get into, which is what helped us. People who were able to recognize, hey, you're almost there. No, this is how to retrace your steps. And they helped us. And for some people, they've already fallen. This is how to climb out of that hole. This is what you can do. So mentoring, parenting is very important. And if you're in that space, you're in a marriage and you're dealing with such issues, I'm talking particularly to marriages that desire to do good. I say this because there are people who go into marriage, it's horrible. What we see, there are people who go into marriage planning, I will marry this nice girl and I will make her life miserable. Mm. I will marry this girl and I will show her Pepe. Maybe he's coming from a place of heartbreak. Some girls have broken his heart, and he's like, this is where I will pay back. And unfortunately, she's a victim of what she doesn't know, or vice versa. I've heard women who say, men will see it in my hand. This pain that I've experienced, they will hear it. So I'm not talking of that. That one, you need trauma counseling and you need a lot of support. I'm talking of people who desire to seek God, to serve God, to have a good marriage, to leave a good legacy, and then find themselves in that problem and find themselves in that space. You need to get help, and there is help. It's not the end of the road. Don't feel like, oh, we have fallen, the marriage is over, the only option is divorce. It's not true. It's not true. Just like any disease can be healed, so also with infidelity or challenges in marriage. Yeah. So hence the
Amazing, amazing, amazing. And I'm glad you actually opened up the book because I'm probably one of those that assume that the book is more about infidelity. And I'm glad you talked about the parents inside of it. And I like what you said about the fact that, we should not, it's good to show ourselves this golden standard, but at the same time to let the children know that we've fallen before and this is how we got out of it, so that they know that they have this perfect parent, but they also have a parent who's gone through experiences that can also help them to get out of there. I always tell my son, I was like, got the t-shirts, sewed it. So, there is nothing new under the heavens. So don't look at me as if I'm perfect. I'm not perfect, but I'm striving every day, obviously, to give you a good model that you can be proud of, but don't think that I've not been through stuff. I have. And I think that is important because then they can, because if they see us as the golden standard, sometimes they are afraid to come back to us and open up because they're thinking, I don't want my parents to see me as a failure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to let them know that it's okay to be in that space and, be open and honest to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's your favorite part of the book?
Okay. So I think my favorite part is towards the end, the shocker. the the shocker when oh no, but that was spoiled the book. Okay, so I would say yeah, but it's the shocker, the fact that if I wasn't part of the writing of the book, right, it will be my favorite because it doesn't end the way you expect it to. Like you think it's going one way and then yeah. I love stories like that. I love movies that I can't predict. Because most times when I'm watching a movie in the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I'm like, I think this is where it's going. And then when I'm right, it's kind of disappointing. But when I'm wrong, I'm like, ooh, something new, nice. Yeah. So I feel like that's about books too. I think with this one, people who are like me would probably like that. Yeah. So
That's great. I can see you don't want to let the cat out of the bag. So guys, you have to read the book all. You have to read the book to find out what the shocker is because my coach Tolu will not tell us. So you have to read the
but
book.
it's a novel, right? So it's a beautiful read. You will probably see yourself in one or two of the characters, and or it may even sound like someone you know or some, but there's nobody that you're going to go out and find that is in this book because it is a mix of different people. So yeah.
Amazing, amazing. So my last question.
Oh,
So
and it's a bestseller badge. Yay. Okay.
see, it is a bestseller. So you go get a book now. You go get a book. Plus, you need to find out the shocker at the end. So
Right.
what are we saying with these things? You have to get the book. So my last question is, what's a piece of advice you will give to someone who is having to transition um, from professional space like you are into, I will call it entrepreneurship, or, you know, even public speaking, you know, what would be your advice of how to transition? I know we've talked a little bit here and there about it on the program today, but what would be one piece of advice that actually starts with this one? What would be that advice?
I'm greedy. I want to give two, but okay, I'll give one. Be willing to learn. Be willing to learn, because as much as you know in the space that you've been in, there's a lot to know in the space that you're going to. But as you're willing to learn, don't assume that you don't know anything. You're not coming from ground zero. There's some things that you know that are going to be useful where you're going, that are transferable skills. But because you don't know what they are or how it will be, humble yourself and learn the new space. Learn the new space. As you're figuring it out, it will become clearer. And then when you now thrive in this new space, it will be shocking, like, how come she's getting to be all this? It's because all the stuff that you've been, or how come he's getting to be all this? It's all the stuff that you've been here is still going with you to the new space. So don't feel like you're starting from scratch. You're not. But be willing to start there, even though that's not where you're ending. I don't know if that's...
Oh, that definitely makes sense, because sometimes we are reaching for this big place and we have not spent time to say, okay, this is where I'm at and I'm going to start from here. And people say it all the time, that is that little step from here that gets you to where you're going, not because I think that's what stops some people from going, because they're looking for that big break. But no, start from here.
So me, for example, so I did all those contests and I was winning and all that, but that's not the actual public speaking space, right? That's like training ground. So I come onto LinkedIn and I start by talking in other people's rooms. In fact, it was in talking in somebody's room. They were asking about, can somebody just give an example of his story? They're talking of storytelling. And on a whim, I unmute my mic and I share a story, 2-3 minutes, and people were wowed by the story. It was a true story, so it wasn't hard for me. I mean, it was just, my experience from childhood, and I shared it, and they were wowed. And it was from that I got connected with people that led to the first book that I was showing you, that became a collaboration because I spoke. So I didn't think, oh no, I need to go to some big event and get a microphone and start. That's not where public speaking will start for you, So just start where you are. Let people hear the value that you have to offer, and then be willing to give it for free. A time will come when they will pay you for it. So yeah, that's...
Thank you so much. I can't even add to that. Thank you. So we are in that place where please tell our audience about your products, your services, how they can connect with you. And just before I get my guests to speak, as I always say on this program, it's not free. There's no free things in free time. So if you connect with my guests, you're connecting with an understanding that they're running a service. If they want to give you for free, because God has laid it on their hearts to do it, I'll let you have that discussion with them. But please note that obviously they're running a business, they're running a service, and you can connect with their service. And I'm confident and I'm sure that they will serve you well. So please tell us about your products, your services, where we can find your book, how people can, read this novel, because even me, I'm thinking about the shocker now. We had to get to the end. Please tell our audience.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so among the services I give, right, I do one-on-one coaching. I am trying to reduce that, so that's probably my premium offer, because it has to make sense to take the time to do one-on-one coaching, especially when it comes to marriage. So whether it is marriage coaching for couples or for individuals who want to prepare for marriage, they want to have the right mindset for marriage, I do one-on-one coaching for that. So you can reach out for details on that, or we can also do the group coaching as well.